Welcome back to the Elite Trainer Academy, the #1 podcast for personal trainers looking to grow their business, brought to you by Mind Pump. Today, I sit down with Sal Di Stefano, and we talk about how to create real change with clients. This is the most important thing that you can learn as a coach. This is what really matters. This is why clients hire you in the first place. So this is a skill you need to develop. So we talk about some of the tactics of how to do that. We talk about forecasting, creating small wins and momentum, and connecting with clients and building relationships, all of which are important roles of a personal trainer. So I think that you'll find this episode very valuable. And if you do, please share. Enjoy the show. What's the biggest mistake that you see trainers make when they're trying to affect behavior change with the client?
Ooh. There's a few common mistakes that I see with trainers with this. The most common one I would say is that they get the client to overcommit on a step that is going to set them up for failure. I'll give you a simple example. You're beginning to work with someone who hasn't worked out, let's say in 5 years. They haven't worked out at all for 5 years. And there's kind of in this hyper-motivated state of mind. They just hired a trainer. And they're like, you know what? I want to work out 5 days a week. And your inclination as a trainer is to be like, that's great. Let's get you going. 5 days a week of activity. This will be awesome. But they went from doing nothing to 5 days a week. And that kind of a commitment in that individual in this example is probably going to set them up for failure. So what you want with clients is you want to stack wins. You want this person to slowly build confidence in their ability to keep promises to themselves when it comes to fitness and nutrition. Because you can do this with diet as well, where you just, I used to do this as an early trainer. I would give someone a meal plan. So go from terrible eating to here's your perfect diet. And, a very motivated client, especially one that just hired you, is going to follow those steps early on. But then as they begin to fall apart and fail, that's devastating to a client. It's really hard to coach them out of that. So I would say that's probably the first one. The second thing, and this isn't a mistake, but I think this is something that trainers will miss, is that you want complete and total honesty from a client. You have to be somebody that they're okay telling when they mess up. So that means you got to give them a lot of grace. Now, why am I saying that for trainers? It's very common for clients to lie or twist the truth or hide what's happened or what they did because they want to impress their trainer. They want to make their trainer proud. They don't want to let their trainer down, or they're embarrassed about something they did. They ate a bunch of cake or they only did half of their workout. If your client comes to you and says to you, hey, I know I'm supposed to be eating really healthy, but yesterday I ate half of a large pizza and then ate half a pint of ice cream. You're actually doing a good job. So a lot of trainers would think I'm doing a bad job because my client made a huge mistake. But the key to successful behavior change is a person trusting you to the point where they can tell you what's happening, what they did. And if you don't build that, the person won't give you the full truth or they'll hide things from you. And then it's impossible to coach them. So the key, I guess the root of all of this is, have you built a relationship with your client where they trust you and where they can come to you for grace? Can they come to you for grace? Now, why is that so important? Because you are their fitness guide. And if they can get grace from you in regards to health and fitness, then it means something, right? Like if they go to their friend who doesn't work out, if they go to the friend who eats unhealthy and they tell their friend, yeah, I ate a large pizza, their friends will be like, what's the big deal? So did I. But if they're going to Kyle, this fit trainer who understands fitness and health, who's trying to help me, and I tell you that happened, and you give me grace, or you make me feel like, yeah, this is hard. You're going to stumble for sure. I've had clients do that before. Let's talk about how we can get back on track. How does that sound? Like if they get grace from you, it's grace. It feels real. And they'll come to you every single time. And the more that they come to you with their struggles and challenges, no matter what they are in this context of health and fitness, the more they come to you, the more able you are to coach them. the more effective you are at coaching them. The less they come to you with that stuff, you have less tools available, less coaching opportunities to be able to work with that person. Because again, the goal here with behavior change is forever. We're not interested in temporary behavior. Temporary behavior change is easy. You can hate yourself into temporary behavior change. You can do 75 hard, right? This is like a short period of time, and I'm going to sign up and do these super hard things for a short period of time. But can you make these changes last forever? That's what I'm interested in. And that's much more difficult. That requires much more coaching, much more support. And it's a journey that is littered with stumbles and falls.
Some clients tend to be, much more difficult to, starting out to get them to open up with a lot of that stuff. What are some like actionable steps a trainer can, be intentional about to make sure that they're providing that environment for a client?
Yeah. Don't react when they tell you anything about their fitness history or their lack of exercise. Let them know you've heard it before. That's very normal. Share personal stories, whatever. And this is another one. I think oftentimes trainers, I was like this at first, right? Oftentimes trainers believe they have to present perfection in order to be well regarded as a good coach or trainer. So like, I'm the perfect example of health and fitness, or I have this all figured out. And if you think I don't have this all figured out, then you're not going to want to listen to me. Now, here's the truth. I know this. I know you know this. There's just as much dysfunctional eating and dysfunctional relationship to exercise in the fitness space as there is outside the fitness space. I would argue probably more.
Yeah.
So when they present to you challenges and issues, relate to them and tell them about your own. The first time this happened to me, this was such a powerful moment. I remember it. And I've talked about it many times on the show because it was so powerful. I had a young lady that worked with me. Her parents hired me to train her, and she was recovering from an eating disorder. And when I was first training her, at first I was like, okay, what do I do? I'm just going to do these exercises with her. I'm not going to overtrain her. She has a tough time. We're not going to talk about food. I remember talking with her therapist ahead of time, and they had kind of advised me on what to avoid, whatever. And so I was just going to focus on getting her stronger. And the conversation naturally came up with kind of what she had been through and why she was working out. And I thought to myself, I kind of know what she feels like. I've never had that kind of an eating disorder, but for me, it was the opposite. I used to stuff myself with food. I thought I was too skinny all the time. So I shared that with her. And I said, and I know what that feels like. I know exactly what that's like. And she looked at me like I was crazy. I said, no, I've never restricted myself, but I force-fed myself. I still do this sometimes. When I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm too skinny, and I do things that I know aren't healthy to get myself to try to look or feel bigger. So I really know what that feels like. That's all I said. I didn't say to her, like, I fixed it, I cured it. And immediately the relationship became much more solid, and her trust in me became so much stronger. And I became far more effective in that moment from sharing that. So sharing things about yourself, making the person realize they're not alone. It's rare. This may happen, but in 25 years, I can think of a couple times a client said something to me that I'd never heard before. Vast majority of the time, someone's going to present to you their challenges, and it's like, yeah, that's normal. That's what most people feel when they go through this. So I know it feels tough, but it's totally normal. And we're going to get through this, and I'm going to coach you. I'm going to guide you.
If you feel like maybe you've either lost that trust with the client or maybe haven't built the relationship properly, is there a way to come back from that?
Yeah. It's hard if you've lost it. And typically you'll lose the trust if the person feels like you reacted in a way that made them feel ashamed. Mm-hmm. So they may come to you, and I'll create a fake example. Hey, last week I gave you my food logs, and I actually wasn't honest. I was eating ice cream every night. And so you're like, oh, Why would you do that? You know, if you do that, you can't get your goals. I know you said your results are really important to you, so you can't be doing that. And then you suddenly feel like, uh-oh, they're pulling away from me. Apologize. Go up to them. Hey, Susan, I reacted in a way to what you told me that was totally wrong. The truth is, it's really common. And I'm actually glad you told me. And it may happen again. And I want to apologize. I hope you forgive me. And I'm going to ask you to trust me again. Is that okay? I mean, that's very powerful way to talk to someone in that way. As far as building the trust is concerned, right out the gates, you ask for it. And so I use analogies all the time. I use them on the podcast too, just because I think they communicate really well. But I'll say something like, we're going to be going through a dark valley together. You're blindfolded, your hand's on my shoulder, but I know the way. I've walked this way before. Keep your hand on my shoulder and step where I tell you to step. Can I ask you to trust me? Will you trust me? And I mean, yes. You'll almost never get a no. You'll always get a yes. Or they may say something like, I'm scared. Of course you're scared. This is going to be scary. Just keep your hand on me and I'll walk us the right way. That's what people want when they hire a coach. That's what they want. What I think people sometimes think they want, or if you ask them what they want, they're like, well, I want to know how to work out. I want you to tell me to eat right. I want to know what the right things are to do. But what they really want is a guide that they trust. And when I say a guide, like they don't know the way, you know the way. They can't even see where you're going. They can't see beyond the first step that you're telling them to take. Even though you may paint the picture, they still can't see it. They've never been there before. They don't understand. And so it's like, follow me. We'll do this together. This will be something that we're going to do together. And you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be really hard. Sometimes it's going to be really hard. You just lean on me. Lean on me. I got this.
Mm-hmm. You were speaking to our trainers yesterday.
Yeah.
One of the things you talked about, which I think is so powerful and relevant to this conversation, that's forecasting.
Yeah.
So what is forecasting? How do you do it? Why is it important?
Forecasting is super important. Tell people what they're going to feel, what they're going to experience, and what stumbling blocks they're going to run into before they do. It's really powerful for a couple of reasons. The first reason is when they hit those roadblocks or when they feel those feelings, they remember that Kyle told them, oh yeah, he said this would happen. This is normal. Okay. So that's number one. And then when it happens, they'll come back and tell you, hey, you know how you said this would happen? Oh my God, it totally did. And then you're like, yeah, of course. So that's number one. Number two, it's very hard to coach somebody. You can do this, and a lot of trainers do this. So I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just much harder to coach somebody out of a stumbling block or a challenge that they weren't informed about beforehand. So we're going to put you on a calorie deficit so we can burn body fat. This is how your body burns body fat. You explain physiology, the whole deal. Then they go in the deficit, and at night their cravings are out of control. And so now they're like, hey, my cravings are totally out of control. Can you coach them? Yeah. Hey, that's totally normal. Of course you're craving. But imagine the power if I did this. Hey, Susan, we're going to put you on a calorie deficit. You're probably going to get really strong cravings at night. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to come home from work. You're going to be okay during the day. But at night, this is when things get really difficult. You're sitting down, you're watching TV with your husband, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could eat anything. Like I am really hungry. It's totally normal. You're going to feel it. Here are some ways that you can deal with it when that happens. Now imagine how she's going to feel when that actually happens. She's going into it and going, oh yeah. Or it's not as bad as you explained. This is even better, by the way. I love forecasting challenges as more challenging than they may actually be. Because then they go into it and they're like, I got some cravings, but I'm actually okay. Then they'll come to you and they'll say, you know what? You know how you said I'd have like these really crazy cravings? They're actually not that bad. Oh my God, that's good news. This is great. Awesome. It's going to be so much easier. So forecasting, it's like we're going to go through this workout. I'm changing you. I'll give you an example. Somebody hires you. They're doing tons of cardio. They're doing circuit training. Their goal is to get leaner. So what you're doing now is you're looking at the routine. You're like, okay, I'm going to put you on a traditional strength training routine where you're going to rest for 2 to 3 minutes in between sets. No more circuit training. I'm going to cut your cardio way down. We're just going to have you walk. I'm going to have you eat more calories so we can build more muscle. So you're explaining this whole process like we do oftentimes on our other podcast. And then I'll say something like this. Here's what it's going to feel like. You're going to, in between sets, you're going to be like, I should be doing more. You're going to feel like I'm feeling tighter in my pants. Am I gaining weight? Like, what's going on? You're going to, as you eat more food, you may feel like you may gain a little bit of water weight. You may gain a little bit of glycogen in your muscles, and you're going to feel like I'm blowing up. Holy crap. This is not working. Trust me, it's working. And then explain the process. And then when they experience it, it's like, he told me. He said I'd be bored in between sets. He said I'd feel totally different after my workouts than before. I'm not exhausted and sweaty. He told me that would happen. He told me through this reverse diet process, I'd feel a little bigger. He explained that to me. So it sets people up super, super well. If you don't do that, then you're coaching, you're playing catch up with your coaching rather than getting ahead of those challenges.
When you have a client that comes to you and there's just a whole list of things that you know you want to work on, I think this is a temptation a lot of trainers fall into, is like trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
But then I'll see this too, where, knowing that, you don't want to throw too much at once. I've seen trainers that, maybe don't do enough to start. Like, how do you find that balance of knowing how much to push a client when trying to, create behavior change? Like, I have this list of, there's just things I want to do with nutrition. There's just stuff I want to do with training. How do you find the balance of like, oh, maybe that was a little too much, or maybe I can push them a little bit more here?
Finding the right balance right out the gates takes a lot of experience. So let's forget about that for a second.
Sure.
You're not going to be able to find the perfect balance right out the gates. It's better to ask them to do less than it is to ask them to do more. Here's what happens when you ask them to do less than what they're capable of. They just nail it. Mm-hmm. Super easy. And then they'll come to you. So the way I would set that up is I'd say, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you hit 20 grams of protein with every meal. That's what I want you to start with. That's your diet. And then they, we're in contact back and forth. 3 weeks later, it's like super easy piece of cake. In fact, the way I would set it up is I say, we're going to start with 20 grams of protein every single meal. When you feel like you're ready to take the next step, you let me know. And then I'll wait. I'll wait for them to tell me. Now, in the initial conversation process, I'm also reading the client. So when I ask them to do something, I'll use an example yesterday. Yesterday, I got on a coaching call with a woman. And the first thing I did, now this was this is kind of a bit of a challenging situation, but this was somebody who's really tied to the scale, had initially lost a ton of weight, was really afraid of gaining weight, really afraid of getting the weight back. But the behaviors and things that they did to lose the initial 100 pounds, she was actually aware that like, I can't, this is not sustainable. Like I need to find a way to do this so that it doesn't feel stressful for me, so I can maintain this for the rest of my life. Now, one of the things that I identified in the call was you need to stop weighing yourself, because those small fluctuations in weight are really setting you off. So I said to her, I said, okay, I want you to stop weighing yourself. And I waited to see her reaction. And she's like, okay. And I said, okay, actually, you need to get rid of the scale, get it out of your house. So she's like, okay, so I'll do that. And I could tell she was on board, but a little challenged. Then we talked a little bit about her eating window. She was fasting. And I knew ideally what we would do with someone like that is I'd have her not fast anymore. I'm trying to move her towards a more healthy relationship with food. Her relationship with fasting was not one that was sustainable or healthy. So I brought it up, and I always ask permission. I always ask permission first. Can I make another suggestion? Always do that before. When you ask someone's permission, it's just much more powerful because the person says yes. Mm-hmm. So can I make another suggestion? She said yes. I said, I think I'd like to ask you to eat a really small breakfast in the morning. Do you think you could do that? And she's like, yes, maybe. And when I heard that maybe, I knew too big of a step. So we talked for a second. I said, you know what? I'm not going to have you end your eating window. We're not going to change your fasting for now. But when you're ready, when you think you're ready to start to tackle that a little bit, you let me know, and I don't care how long it takes. And we were done. So starting too slow is far better than going too far. Starting too slow, you start to see the signals, you get the feedback, and you see like, we can take another step. Like, let's take another step. Let's do this. Remember, the timeline for us is the rest of our life. The timeline for them may be 3 months or 6 months, which is fine. But for me, it's like, that's cool. but I want to make sure, I want to see if we can do this for the rest of our lives. I have no interest in getting you to get in shape in 6 months and then get out of shape, because that's a big fail. So my timeline is forever. So too slow is perfectly fine. Too fast, well, that's what crushes people. That's what gets people to fail again and again. And if you look at the statistics on how many times people try and then stop trying, every single time somebody has a big failure, every time they go on a fitness plan and a diet plan and they lose weight and then they gain it back, that's the fail. Every time they do that, each time is essentially taken away from ever trying again. And at some point, people just go, I give up. I'm not doing this anymore.
How do you handle the conversation with a client that you're doing that, you're starting pretty slow and they want to move faster? Like I was just having a conversation yesterday with one of our coaches, and he has a client that chronically overtrained, undereats. He started her, I think, on 2 days of MAPS anabolic or something like that, which for her was, scaling back quite a bit. And after one workout, she was ready. She's like, I'm ready to do more. Yeah. He's like, well, hold on. Like, let's slow down a bit. Yeah. How do you handle that conversation with the client where you're trying to explain to them what you're doing? Yeah,
no, listen, I love how excited you are. I love the fact that you want to keep doing more. I need you to trust me right now. Trust the process. Let me show you some results. And then we'll take it from there. But this is going to work so well. I just need you to trust the process. So I'm asking for trust. I'm emphasizing like this is going to work. Stick to it. In fact, if we do more, we're actually going to slow ourselves down. Do you want to slow things down? No, I don't. Okay, let's just start here. Trust me. I have a great example of that. A client that hired me who now is my business partner, Doug. When Doug hired me as a client, he had already been working out. He had a long history of exercise. And when I told him we're going to train twice a week, he was like, what? Shouldn't I be coming at least 4 days a week? And I'm like, no. Let's go 2 days a week. Let me show you some results, and then we'll take it from there. And of course, once he saw the strength gains and he saw the progress, like he was totally bought in. Now, I could have, as a trainer, been like, you're going to work out with me 4 days a week. I mean, it's more money for me, right? I'm going to train you twice as much every single month. That's way more sessions per week. But I would have lost Doug, or potentially would have lost Doug as a client. But instead, I showed him, asked him for that trust. Once he saw it, it was like, he's totally bought it. The other thing too, when you have someone that chronically overtrains, you communicate that the challenge is not in working out more. The challenge for you is going to be working out less. So the things that, like, you hired me to coach and guide you, and I'm trying to guide you, and it's going to be challenging for you. Not because I'm telling you to work out a lot. For some people, that's the challenge, is to me to get them to work out. For you, the challenge is going to be to work out an appropriate amount. And right now, this is what's appropriate. And I know it's hard, but that's why you hired me. Are you ready to do this? Yes, I am.
What if you suspect that they're not following that?
Yeah.
They're doing more on their own.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah. I mean, you invite them to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And by the way, what you don't want to do is get into a battle of, are you telling me the truth or not?
Yeah.
So you open it up like, Susan, are you working out more than I'm telling you? You can tell me, are you working out more? If she says no, say, no problem, I trust you, I believe you. And you're done. Mm-hmm. And then you move as if that's the truth. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, I am. Oh, I knew you were. I knew it. Listen, I need you to trust me. Can you back off on that? Back off on it just for a few weeks. Let me just show you. Can you do that? Oh my God, it's so hard. I know. And then you have this great conversation. Invite them in to be honest. If they continue to lie, that's totally fine. Now what you're going to do is you're going to continue to move forward, continue to build trust, and invite that honesty in. You're not going to win if you go, I know you're lying to me. I know you're not telling me the truth. Where are you going to get with that? They're going to dig their heels in. They're going to not want to tell you more, and you've kind of damaged the relationship. This is all about relationship building. This is all about relationship building. In fact, I can think of examples of clients who did things like that, who I did ask, who did say, no, I wasn't. And I said, no problem, I believe you. We continued. And then later they told me, you know how I told you I wasn't doing more? I was. And then I'll kind of laugh a little bit. I suspected that. Okay, are you ready to do what I'm telling you now? Like, it's not like, why didn't you lie to me? That's why you're not getting results. It's like, thank you for telling me. All right, are you ready to do what I'm telling you? Are you ready to follow me the way that I know is best? Are we ready to do this? And then you build that trust.
Yeah. I think the way that you communicate that is so important too. Like even the way you just did that now, it's like, it's very friendly, a little bit of jest. Like it's very not serious. I think that's probably the hard part about navigating that is not being like, not accusing them, like being friendly. Like this is a conversation I'm having a lot with our coaches is, especially in the online setting as a coach, it's really tough to do this properly, to like create a relationship with a client, like a friendly, like I'm here to be like your guide, but also your friend through the process. Very hard to do online.
It's always hard. It's even harder online because you can't read body language as well. And obviously connection is easier in person, but you can do it online. You can still do it online. But here's the thing. Being effective means you're honest. So that doesn't mean, what I'm not saying is you let them do whatever and okay. It just means you give them grace. It just means they don't feel like you've never heard this before, or you're disappointed in me as a person, or you're disgusted with me, or you're mad at me. That's not what you want to communicate. But you want to be honest. So clients not getting results, they come to you, hey, I'm not really seeing my body fat go down. Like, John, it's because your diet. You know that, right? Yeah, I do. You ready to get that? You ready to tackle diet with me? Yes, I am. So you got to be honest, but that doesn't mean you make them feel like a terrible person. These are all behaviors. They're hard to change. Here's the thing too. We got to empathize with these people. I'll never forget. I had a client. Oh God, I was probably in my early 20s. His name was Jim. Very successful entrepreneur, very self-made. Dropped out of high school and had a tough life, and then turned himself into this extremely successful man. And I remember asking him all these questions about business, like how do you do it? What do you do? And he's talking to me and kind of helping me. And I'm realizing like the things that he has figured out that I have challenges with are in this business space. And I may have figured out some stuff with fitness, but they're challenged with this. And there's things in my life that I'm challenged with. So you can't look at yourself. It's very easy to judge someone. And so you get this a lot in the fitness space. It's discipline. If you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. Look, dude, you might have figured this out in one way, but that doesn't mean most people, if most people are challenged with this, you got to empathize with it. It's hard. It is very hard. Very few people really figure this out. Even people in fitness oftentimes haven't figured this out. They just look like they figured it out because maybe they have a ripped body or because they're obsessed. So empathize with the whole process, man. It's hard. It is really hard, as evidenced by the majority of people who have success in many areas of their life, but just can't figure it out with health and fitness. These are not lazy, undisciplined people. This is just an area that's very difficult. And the world makes it very difficult. We don't live in a world where the default is health. The default is poor health, period. You live in the world, you follow the world, you will be unhealthy. So we're fighting a very difficult uphill battle. You're asking them to be different than everyone else. You're asking them to go against the way that they've always been when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to exercise or activity, or what they understand about exercise and activity. So it's hard. It's a long game. We're playing a long game. This is not checkers. This is chess. Sometimes you have to forfeit a pawn in order to get your checkmate. So understand that that's how this game works. Because I think sometimes trainers go into this and they're like, just do what I say and you can get those results. Why can't you just do what I say? It's because you're not listening. It's because you're undisciplined. Or there's this like drill sergeant mentality. Those people get popular on social media for a couple reasons, and we identify with them. Oftentimes trainers love that, right? We love that drill sergeant mentality, maybe for ourselves. But it also gets popular on social media because when you're somebody who's hating yourself because you just really came to this really painful realization of how unhealthy you are or unattractive you are or whatever, it's really nice to go on there and hear somebody, beat you up. It feels cathartic. Yeah, I need that. I need the Goggins to tell me that I'm just undisciplined. I need that or whatever. That's not a long-term approach. You can't hate yourself into better health. So it's a different approach than the one that oftentimes is the one that comes natural to us as trainers, but understand it as such. You'll be far more successful. By the way, the end result of this are clients who don't leave. You build a very stable business and career, and you turn regular people into people who prioritize health and fitness for the rest of their life. That's the end result. That's what happens. And your business thrives from that.
It's a tough thing to to balance sometimes as a trainer, because a lot of times you're taking on clients for X amount of sessions or 3 months or 9 months or whatever it is. And so in your head, you're thinking, I got to get them to the results, the most direct path. But acknowledging or understanding that it's a long-term process. And so it's not just about that. It's about actually creating the change with the client. That's a hard thing to balance, because they're paying you for 24 sessions and you have to, not go maybe the most direct route, but go the right route for that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, Kyle. If at the end of 24 sessions, they are like, I really like Kyle. He's a great coach, a great guide. He knows what he's talking about. I feel like I can tell him about anything that has to do with health and fitness. I want to be around him and I want to work out with him. They're going to stay with you.
Yeah.
We tend to think if they lose the 30 pounds, they'll stay with you. Or if they get the, whatever result, they'll stay with you. That's not true. Now, results are very important. You still got to be a good trainer. By the way, the baseline, so this is the bar. There's a bar, right? There's a very low bar with training. Yeah, you got to know what you're doing. You got to know workout, program design. You got to know decent nutrition. Cool, great. You just met the bare minimum. Now, do you want to just beat the bare minimum? Do you want to be like every other trainer who, every 3 months has to find new clients, or every 6 months has to find new clients and feels like their business is up and down and constantly hustling for leads? Or do you want the kind of business, if you look at the top, 1% of trainers, here's what their business looks like. They have a client base that's theirs and that's it. And that's it. And every once in a while, somebody moves or whatever, and there's a referral waiting to fill that spot. The back half of my career, you could ask Justin the same thing. You could ask Adam the same thing. I didn't need I had my clients. These were my people. They were the ones that came in. They were the ones that came in at the same time every single week. I saw them. I got to know them because I trained them for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And that was it. That's a stable, that's a very possible career. That's what a good trainer client base looks like. It doesn't look like I cycle clients in and out, in and out, in and out. Now, I know in the beginning it's going to feel like that, but as you get better, you just have this real stable, this is my client base. These are people I work with. And if I need a new client, you know what I do? I would tell my clients, hey, I have a new opening on this day. Oh my God, finally, I got a friend that wants to work with you. And they come in and they'd stay with me too.
Yeah. I'm so glad you went that route too, because I think there's a lot of trainers that are so focused on building their business, which I think is a great thing. But I think if you get too caught up on the business, the lead generation, the acquisition, new clients, I think you're just doing yourself a disservice, because if you're focusing on this, like the important thing, which is, that hopefully the purpose of why you're a trainer, which is just being a good trainer with affecting behavior change and changing lives with clients, then that from a business perspective is a sustainable strategy.
Very sustainable. Look at trainers who've been doing this for a long time. Look at people like Ben Bruno. We had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
I bet you most of his clients have been with him for 5+ years.
Yeah.
Probably longer. Mm-hmm. Most of my clients were with me for a very long period. I had one woman who was with me for, since I opened my studio, was that 13 years or something like that? And the average one probably 6 or 7 years. That's what it looks like for successful trainers. Now in the beginning, you're building your business. In the beginning, lead acquisition is very important. Mm-hmm. Getting yourself out there is very important. Getting new clients is very important. And in the beginning, there's more turnover, even if you're doing a really good job, because you're kind of working through people who are going to be those people that stay with you. So a little bit of that still happens in the beginning. But for a really good trainer, typically by the end of a year, you've got this client base and they're there. And that's it. These are the people I work with. And very rarely do I need to replace a client because somebody left.
Yeah. That's, we were in a meeting before this, and the question was asked of what's the, how do you measure success, or some what's the most important metric or something like that. And your answer was that essentially it's retention and re-sign. Are there any other things that you're looking at that you could just look at a trainer business and say this trainer's doing a really good job?
Retention is the best by far. How long have your clients been with you? How long have you been working with them? And here's another one, how many of your clients were referred by other clients? That's another big one. I spent so I worked on my own. I had my own studio, I think, for like 15 years. I spent the last 13 years a grand total of $0 on marketing. Nothing. I did nothing for it. If I needed a new client, somebody brought me one. Now, early on, I spent a little bit, but a lot of it was me just going out the doors and talking and meeting with people, things that we talk about in our course. But I spent $0, dude. I did nothing. In fact, I had a website. I don't even know if it worked at one point. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but it had become so stable, my business, that it was just like, I had to do more to get trainers to come into my studio to build their businesses. And that became a lot of what I did, was help other trainers build their businesses, so that then my studio had this consistent staff, which is what I did. But I mean, you know this, Kyle. I mean, how long have you been with us? And I know I still see you training people. Some of these clients have been with you since you first became a trainer here, and they're probably not going to go. They're probably not going to leave. In fact, I saw you train. I think it was this morning, training someone who's been with you for a while.
Yeah. I just have a handful of clients that have been with me just for so long. I think that's the tough part about where I'm at is, I've had to kind of move on from, spending a lot of time training clients, but I have a handful that have been with me for so long. And I think they would probably never leave as long as I, continue to take them on. And I do that intentionally too. I only have a handful, but I still keep a handful, even though there's plenty of other things I need to be doing. Yeah. Like I still keep a handful of clients so that I can like keep my finger on the pulse of that. Like I don't ever want to lose that skill of coaching clients.
I feel you, bro. 100%. Look, when we started Mind Pump, and then when we monetized, and then I sold my studio, the single hardest part of all that was telling my clients I wasn't going to train them anymore.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. I found them a replacement trainer, and I set them up. In fact, I brought that replacement trainer on with me in some sessions and got them to know each other. I felt very responsible for these people. It was the most difficult thing. But the other part that I want to address is, keeping your finger on the pulse. Mm-hmm. Our live callers does that to an extent, but more recently, I've gotten on a couple coaching calls. I got on one today. I got on one yesterday, one with Will and one with Aaron. These are two trainers here at Mind Pump. And, oh man, it's like, you can't stop doing it. Like I'm well, for me, at least it's a passion. I love it. I feel so good when I do it. It brings me back to my roots. And even though I don't necessarily coach and train trainers directly, you manage our department, you do a phenomenal job with it. I coach them, somewhat indirectly. It actually makes me better on the podcast. I think if you're going to be in health and fitness and communicate it, working with people is it's a good idea to keep doing it. It just keeps you in the game. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see a lot of like influencer type trainers online that they just they blew up, got famous on Instagram, and then they try to go to selling like a workout program, just like a do-it-yourself workout program. I think that's a mistake, because I think you have to get experience and reps, and you have to continue to do that directly one-to-one with clients. It just makes you far better.
Yeah, it's like, what do you want? What do you want out of this? Do you just want to make a lot of money? Okay. There's a lot of ways to make a lot of money. There's a lot of easier ways to make a lot of money. Do you want to change lives, build relationships, help people improve the quality of their life through health and fitness? Do you have a deep passion for it? And do you want to make money? Like, those are the things that I'm aiming for. That's what I speak to. Those are the kind of trainers and coaches we have here at Mind Pump. Those are the kind of coaches and trainers that I want to foster out in the fitness space. And those are not the people who are massive fitness influencers who are selling high volume of whatever, and that's not who I'm talking to. And here's the deal. This is good news. It's achievable for most trainers with the right passion who have the dedication. You can build a great 6-figure, consistent, stable career as a trainer. That's possible for most people. Now, the top out of that group, some people can go deep 6 figures and become these crazy elite trainers. But most people, if you come to me with those things and you've got integrity, you've got some, aptitude, and you're allowing yourself to be mentored by good people. Let's say they work under you or us. Like you'll have a 6-figure career and you'll love it and you'll work with people and it'll be stable. It won't feel up and down. It's not just possible. It's likely if you do it the right way.
One of the things that's top of mind for us at Mind Pump, one of the things that we talk about all the time as we're building this training team and as we're doing more education for personal trainers, is that we're trying to set a standard for what a good trainer is in the industry. And this is a conversation I have with every intern that we have, every new trainer that we bring on. We talk about like what that means, and that's always at the core of it. The most important part of that, and this is the conversation that I have with these trainers, is that we're always client first, like client focused. I use the phrasing of like client obsession because it's not just like a passive, we get results, we care about our clients, because every trainer says that. You ask any trainer at a big box gym, why are you a trainer? And that's what they're going to say, whether it's true or not. But we strive to actually live that out. And what that looks like is we move fast. We have a lot going on here. Like we're building a business. But beneath all of that, it's going above and beyond, over delivering, finding ways to improve the client experience, like getting the client results, of course, but improving their relationship with fitness, improving their relationship with nutrition, making sure that they feel like they're having the best experience to the point where hopefully we get to the point where it doesn't even it's almost laughable that they would go to a different trainer. That's what we're trying to create is that it's like the thought of leaving, working with us and going to different trainers is it's ridiculous.
Yes. And for other trainers, it's just to, piggyback off what you said. For other trainers, what we're trying to do here is show other trainers what it looks like. What does it look like to be a good, successful trainer? That standard doesn't exist right now. Like if I were to say, I'm a doctor and, I studied at Stanford and I did my internship at, we would know, oh, wow, you're at, Johns Hopkins or Stanford, whatever, right? I want to create that standard here. And I want people to be able to look to us to say, that's what it should look like. Because right now, here's the deal. Nothing will impact a everyday person's health and fitness in a positive way like a good coach. There's nothing. There's nothing I can say on the podcast. There's no social media post I could do. There's no book I could write. There's nothing I could do to affect an individual like that would compare to what a good coach for them or a good trainer for them would do. Period. End of story. On the other side, almost nobody could turn someone away from the right way to do fitness, the right way to approach nutrition, or just turn them away completely like a bad trainer or a bad coach. That's gym hurt. That's fitness hurt. It's like, oh, I had a trainer and then this was my experience and they told me to do this and this all happened or whatever. Like that person's really hard, to bring back. And it's hard for a couple of reasons. One, they've got these skewed idea of what really works, or two, they don't want to come back. They don't want to talk. They don't want to deal with it anymore because I had this bad experience. And unfortunately, both of those exist in the fitness space. And unfortunately, really good trainers are not super common. There's a lot of trainers out there. So sometimes you'll hear people who are thinking about becoming a personal trainer, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, but isn't the space saturated? Like, aren't there already a lot of trainers?" Well, first off, it's a growing field. It grows year over year, more than almost any other field. So that part is true. But also, there's not a lot of great trainers. If I go into a big box gym who has 15 trainers, I may find one. If there's more than one, that's exceptional. If there's none, that's kind of common. That's how hard they are to find. So our big overarching goal is to change that so that this is a field where you go work with someone and they're doing a great job and we're changing lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we're doing it. I think we have an amazing team here, and I love what we're doing on the coaching side with coaching trainers too. I'm excited to see how that all turns out.
And I just want to add, most of our trainers have very little experience. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that because I think that's a bad thing, okay? I'm saying that just to show and echo how well you can do as a trainer with the right mentorship, with the right coaching. You said client obsession. I 100% agree. For you as a manager, or for me as a founder, it's employee obsession. If our trainers get the feeling from you that you're trying to get them to create in their clients, it'll happen. If they feel from you that guidance, that mentorship, that leadership, that grace, that come to you with challenges and growth, and that'll flow out of them to their clients. And then we'll build this culture. Good gym culture is some of the best culture you'll ever be a part of. And creating that is the most important thing you can do when it comes to creating trainers that create that good culture with their clients.